What's up, you guys? All right, so in this episode, Tire Kickers, I'm going to talk about a 1955 Porsche Speedster, which I just bought. And this is kind of exciting because I've been on the hunt for a Speedster for a while, but not probably what you'd be typically thinking of. So let me give you a little backstory, and I'm gonna actually jump in here. I'm gonna go side by side. Let's do a little split window side by side. So this right here is the car that I just bought. It's a 1955 Porsche Speedster. But what got me looking at these Speedsters was actually this car right here. And this is a 1957 356A Speedster that recently was at Bring a Trailer, was on auction. Now, what's kind of interesting about this one is, and I'll just make it full screen bigger so you can see it, is I was actually looking at this car, I don't know, 6 or 8 months before it went on Bring a Trailer. The folks that owned it, that restored it, told me they had this car and they wanted to sell it. And their asking price, I believe, and I could be mistaken, but I believe the initial asking price, hold on to your chairs, let me go camera, $425,000. $425,000. Look at this car. It's not pristine, it's not perfect, but that's what I loved about it. And so I was kind of like, man, you know, if you look out, if you just kind of look at other Speedsters out there, let me go back to my split screen. We've got a 1956 here, unrestored, $431,000. All right, so that one's pretty pricey. This one's $335,000, but it's restored, right? And there's $370,000. There's price on request. So you are typically seeing them anywhere from, well, $350,000 to $450,000, some are even higher, depending on quality of restoration. And so back here on this one, I Bring a Trailer, I kind of thought, well, it's not restored, so maybe it's worth a little bit less. And so when they initially threw out the price of $425,000, I was like, I can't do it. Now, as you guys know, who obviously subscribe to this channel or follow me over at Warrior Trading, I'm a full-time day trader. My best trading day this year, $225,000 in one day. In one day. And I've got some of my charts still going on in the background here. So it's not unreasonable necessarily to spend $425,000 on a car, which is a, I suppose, collectible in most ways. But I was a little nervous about pulling the trigger on something like this. So I said, no, I can't do it. They ended up coming back and said, well, we'll sell it for $375,000, but that's our lowest number. And I still was like, I can't do it. Because even though I love it, even though I see the value to me in this car, which has this just amazing patina, which only comes through age, restored car, you don't get that. At the same time, I didn't know if maybe I'm just a, kind of oddball for liking it, and perhaps it wouldn't command this type of money in the market. So, and now a couple notes on this specific car. So number one, it bid to $342,000, which you can see here in the top corner. And I'll go back to this view. So it bid to $342,000, and I was bidding on it. I thought, okay, well, post it on Bring a Trailer, I'll bid on it, and then we'll actually know the true market value of it. It went to $342,000, and then the auction stopped. So it did not hit the reserve. And so I called them. I called them after the auction finished. I said, all right, well, so what do you guys want for it? It didn't go for, $340,000, $375,000 like you thought. And I guess they had a number of people call them after the auction ended, and they ended up selling it for over $400,000. So I didn't buy it. Now, here's the thing. This car, you can tell on the bottom. You can see on the bottom right here that this has obviously been, it's been, the whole bottom looks like it's been redone. It almost looks like a new bottom. So let's see. Hey, girl, you want to go outside? you know, if you look at some of these pictures, again, not to go through all of them in a ton of detail, but that's a new body, right? So this isn't exactly a garage find, unrestored Porsche Speedster. This has been restored everywhere except kind of the paint, I guess. But it was actually, they said it was repainted once, which is not uncommon. You know, just for reference, the way cars were painted in 1955, 1960 is not the same as the way they were painted today. Those paints did not last as long. So a respray, a repaint is not really a big deal. But, you know, to say that it was 100% original barn find, you know, you can tell that clearly it's not. It's been definitely, these are a lot of new parts here. So it's kind of like almost a mirage of the barn find, because it looks on the outside like a barn find, but underneath the surface you realize that it's maybe not. Now, in any case, when I saw this auction close and then I talked to them and it sold for over 400 grand, I was like, okay, there actually is a market for this. So in fact, I passed up on buying it for 375 when you know, maybe I could have, should have. And also I'll note that this is a 356A. So this is a Type 1, a T1 Porsche Speedster. And the traditional T1 Speedster, I have a couple links up here. Let's see. So this right here, these are the typical T1 bumpers. They have these kind of bigger bumper guards on the front, and they have them on the back as well. Whereas the Pre A Speedster looks more like this. It's got this kind of very, like, much less of a bumper. So this one on Bring a Trailer, you know, it also is kind of like a little bit of, it feels like a little bit of a, I don't know, just mix of different sort of different eras, where it sort of looks like a Pre-A, but it's not a Pre-A, it's a 57. So anyways, when this one sold, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna renew my search for a Speedster that's a kind of barn find, you know, a true barn find. There's one for sale right now in Europe that's red, that has a beautiful patina, a lot like this. But it looks more original, and their asking price is nearly $500,000, and that's in Europe. And with everything going on in the world right now, shipping across, you know, across the world, or well, across the ocean, is just not something I'm interested in doing. So that's out. Over here on this site, so this one right here is asking in Europe for $431,000 US. So you can see that this one is a similar kind of look. You can see it's got the correct. Let's see. Actually, what year is this? This is 56. So 56. So it is a Pre-A. You've got the Pre-A bumpers. You've got the rear bumper, the front, and so this is gonna, you know, this is unrestored. And whether or not that's original paint, maybe they provide more details in the description. It's been cleaned up. This didn't just get rolled out of a barn. It's clearly been cleaned up. Whether or not it's running is to be determined, and maybe they have more details in it here. But in any case, you know, it's $430,000. So that's about the same price as what this one just sold for on Bring a Trailer, but, you know, it's in Italy, so that's not going to work. So I put out a couple feelers. I told a couple friends, I said, hey guys, I'm looking for a Speedster. You know, is there one that you know, any of you guys know about? And so I have a friend who has actually a 55 Speedster, and he and another friend found one that was in California. And so let me go back to the picture right here. So this car right here, this is the one that I just got. Now, buying, and this was for sale for $300,000. So I was like, all right, 300 grand. Now, that's 100,000 less than the one that just sold on Bring a Trailer. So I jump into this and fix it up, and I could go put it on Bring a Trailer and make some money, potentially, or enjoy it for a period of time, depending on what I decide. So this is the car, but here's the challenge. You know, throwing $300,000 at a car, it's a lot of money. I've got to make sure that it's not a mirage. I've got to make sure it's the real deal. What's underneath? Now, this car's out in California because of COVID and everything else. I'm not in a position to travel out. And so I sent Matt and Bart down to check out this car and really dive into it. And so what we're going to do here is I'm going to kind of walk you through the process of figuring out whether or not this is the real deal. So what do I kind of look for first? Well, on the exterior, now when this car was... the seller said, I have a 1956 Type 1 356A Speedster. All right, so let me just, drop a little knowledge on you for 1 second here. So when it comes to Speedsters, total production of the 356 Speedster, a little over 4,000. I have it at 4,144 total produced. Pre A Speedsters, 1,234 total production. All right, so about 25% of the total production was Pre-A. The rest are T1 or T2 Speedster. So Pre-A is the earliest. The earliest Speedster is 1954, and there were only 200 made in 1954. Those are top dollar. 1955, 1,034 were made, and so that brings total production to 1,234 Pre-A Speedsters. Now this has the T1 356A rear bumper, as you can see right here. So at first glance, it does look like a 56 356A because of that rear bumper. But let's dive into this a little bit more. So one of the things that I needed to see, and we'll just start looking through some of these images, and we'll talk through it a little bit. So the front is actually the Pre-A bumper, but you can see that there's these holes right here. They're a little hard to see, but there's actually these holes right here, which is where the T1 bumper, the 356A bumper, would have been mounted. So this did have at one point 356A front and rear bumpers, because a Pre-A, well, typically wouldn't have these holes right here. But let's continue on. Let's continue looking at some of these pictures. So let me back this out. We'll go to the next one, or I'll just jump out here. So one of the things that I looked at, and let me just pull this up here. I wanted to see the Kardex. So a Kardex is the initial. This is the bill of sale essentially for the vehicle. And so when I looked at this date right here is 1955. And so I'm thinking, wait a second, 1955, this isn't a 356A. 1955 is 356 Pre-A. It's a Pre-A Speedster. And so I look at the numbers right here, 8134. So that's its VIN number. And then we've got the motor number, 60130, the transmission number, and the color code. Now, what's interesting here, all 356 Speedsters, these Pre-A Speedsters, that came to New York, were sold in the United States, were shipped to Hoffman. This dealer in New York was the only dealer that had these 356 Speedsters in the States. So this all lines up. So now a couple questions. Number one, can we confirm that this piece of paper here actually matches the car? Does the number match? Does the transmission match? Does the color match? Does all of this line up? And how do we know that this is a Pre-A Speedster and not a T1 Speedster? So one of the first things that I looked at is the dashboard. And you can see right here the dashboard with these 3 gauges right here, these 3 little lights right here. We could just look over at a 356A. So a 356A Speedster, so 1956, and let's look at the dashboard on this one. So the dashboard here in 1956 with the T1 looks, I'll just go back like this. I don't know why it's not letting me just click on it. Yeah, I guess it will. So by the way, this one is for $485. All right, so it's like, it's kind of crazy how much some of these are worth, But a lot of these dealers, they try to make a little bit of money on them. So that's what the T1 dash looks like. So you've got your fuel gauge, you've got your oil temp gauge, and sort of like this. This is another 356, a Pre A Speedster right here. This one was produced in September. No, that's backwards. So this was in March of 55, March 9th of 55. Pretty sure because this is, so March 9th of 55. So back up here, let's see, we'll see this is again the Pre A. So you can see the Pre A dashboard right here, all right? So the fact that this one is Pre A, was built in 1955, the person who was selling it thought it was an A. And the fact that it's a Pre A actually makes it worth, I'd say a bit more than the T1 and T2 because they're rarer. So now let's verify whether or not this is actually engine matching, transmission matching, etc. So we've got the production here. So we've got, let's see, 1035, 55, 1031, 55. So 8134. All right. So that's the VIN number essentially. This is the motor number 60130. And so I said, all right, guys, get me a picture of that engine number. You know what I want to see? I want to see 60130. Boom. We've got an engine number match. Engine number is matching. All right. So I said, okay, that's good. Now let's just check the transmission because sometimes you'll have a matching engine number, but not the Wait a second. That's a matching transmission. 7285H5, 7285H5. Now you're talking my language. We've got matching engine, matching transmission. Okay. Well, but the color is WEIB. That's white. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell me that this is not a white car that we've got sitting here. Let me grab this. Let's see. We'll grab this picture here. This is not a white car. This is blue. So it has been repainted. And in fact, if you look closely, you can see the white paint underneath. So it was repainted in blue. Now, Porsche did have a blue color for the Speedster. This is actually a color map right here of the colors that they did. White was the most common. So this aquamarine blue, if that was an original, if it was originally in that color, or if it was in this green, that would be, those would be rarer because they made less of them. So although white is the most common from 1954 to 1959, that doesn't change the fact that it's still a Pre A. So we've still got the Pre A, and just like the black one at Bring a Trailer, the black one was repainted. So this one's been repainted in blue, but I actually don't mind it because I actually really like this color. I mean, I think this color is awesome. All right, so we've got the engine matching. Now, what's the story with the bumpers? What's interesting about the bumpers, I said, give me a closer look at those bumpers. So the bumpers are also, you can see the white paint underneath. And so since it was repainted blue, that tells me that these bumpers may have, it makes me speculate that perhaps they were put on by the dealer, perhaps. Maybe he had already taken in some 1956 T1 Speedsters, and he had this 1955 sitting there on the showroom floor. It looked different, and said, you know what, because this one arrived in December. So, perhaps it's actually December 7th. December 7th, 1955. So perhaps with some 1956s right next to it, either the dealer thought it would look better with a 56 bumper, or perhaps the first buyer thought it would look better with a 56 bumper. But that's the bumper. That doesn't change the fact that this is still a Pre A body. It's still a Pre A everywhere else. And although the original rear bumper that would have matched it, I'll have to find one. If I want this to look like a 55 Pre A, which I do, I would have to change that bumper out. But I might just keep it as it is right now. I'll have to think about that. Now the front actually has gone back to a Pre A bumper. And so you can see these holes where originally it had that guard, the sort of bigger bumper guard that you'll see on one of these pages that I had up for you. Let's see, on, oh, that's the 55. Let's see, so, oh, where is it? Well, you guys know what I'm talking about. You already saw it. This one right here. So that T1 bumper guard. So is it possible, and you can see where it mounts right there. So that's what has been, so that's not there anymore on this one. So I don't know, perhaps something happened to it. Maybe it got bumped, ran into something, or I don't know. Something happened and they decided to take off and change it back. So maybe it was when they repainted it blue, which was clearly a long time ago because this paint has that patina that I really like. All right, so let's go back to the Kardex. So the Kardex right here, which is what you refer to authenticate the car. You've got the matching number. And then one of the things that we want to do, so let's see. So we want to check the matching number on right there. So we've got the VIN number 81034. So that's a matching number right there. We've got this stamp right here, which has 81034 right here on it. So that checks out. So we're in good shape there. And then on some of the body panels, you see 034. And you'll see it again here, 034. And you'll see it again here, 81034. So, you know, we've gone and really thoroughly checked to make sure that this is not the mirage. This is actually the real deal. And this is, of course, the engine, and then the stamp on the engine is right down there. So the mileage on it is 43,141 miles on this odometer. Now, this is a tough thing. It can always be a little tricky to verify without a fairly extensive amount of documentation whether or not this is original mileage. My friend, Matt, who came to look at this, he's got a 55 Speedster, and his was actually, I wrote it down, his was actually built just a week, I think it was a week later. I have a picture of his up here. So this is his 55. So these two cars were in the same factory together in 1955. They were built 2 weeks apart. It's pretty cool. So anyways, his has 77,000 miles, which he believes to be original. Not that it rolled over and is at 177,000. And he said that looking at his, he's got a little bit more wear on the pedals, you know, gas, brake, and clutch. And this one looks like it's in a little bit of better condition. So he speculates that maybe this is actually 43,000 original miles and not 143,000. But it's hard to say, and we'll have to see whether or not the odometer is still working, because, you know, that's always a variable with some of these older cars. So we've got 43,000 miles on it as it sits right now. The floor pans are, I mean, they're not bad. They have these holes here to drain out water if water collected here from the convertible top. So you can see that the paint's peeled back, but it's not, you're not punching holes through the bottom. It's not terrible. That's the bottom right there. Again, you can see a little bit of stuff here, but all things considered, for 1955, this isn't bad. We've got patina on the exterior, which I love. We've got the patina on the hood. The dust is still on the hood. We've got the spare tire sitting right in here. Now Matt actually has a set of correct wheels. These are not the correct wheels. These are modified. These were put on after the fact. But he actually has a set of 1955 dated, stamped and dated wheels that I'll be able to put on this, so they'll be correct. And again, I have no intention of respraying this and painting it. I love it exactly as it is. I think just the way people bid this up to 400,000. Comparatively, I actually like the blue more. So we'll see whether or not I decide to fix it up and sell it. We're gonna fix it, and when I say fix it, I don't mean restore it. I mean more of preserve it, repair it. make sure we can get it running, but to keep as much of what's original on it as absolutely possible. I don't want to lose that originality. This is I mean, it's just not every day that you're able to pull a 55 Pre A Speedster out of a barn and have something that's this original. I mean, it's really, really cool, and this is exactly what I love. The fact that other people out there love it too, and that there's actually a value in the market for cars in this condition. I mean, I know some of you are like, this is insane. Why do people pay this amount of money? Porsches, Ferraris, these early production models, there are so few of them that exist in the world. And because Porsche and Ferrari both continue to make such amazing cars, early models are sought after and they command high amounts of money. You talk about Ferraris that are 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars. Really. So there's a real market for these. It's supply and demand. That's what it is. It's supply and demand. And so we've got, I'm on the right side, supply and demand with this one. I think getting it both at a pretty good price and having some room to work with it. It's obviously going to take a little bit to fix it and get it running smoothly and everything else. But the bones are there. It's solid. It's not perfect, but it's solid. And in the perfection are some of the things that I love about it the most. That patina. You just can't, I mean, I know some people try to fake this type of patina, but you really just can't. This takes years to form. So yeah, it's been repainted, once, but that doesn't kill me because I actually love the color. So this is my work in progress right now. And look at those seats. Do they need to be, sort of washed down? Sure, but this is preserved. This is a little time capsule that we've got right here. So I'm really excited about it. This is going to be a really fun car to see fixed up. And what's funny is I've kind of I'm going in on the Porsches, and it's because they're so fun to drive. They're so engaging to drive. The engine sound, the transmission, everything about them is such a joy and a pleasure to drive that once I had my 1961 Volkswagen Bus, which was the car that I kind of pulled the trigger on and was like, okay, I'm going to do it. That's a 23 window Volkswagen Bus. I don't have an actual picture of it on my. Actually, no, I do. I'll grab a picture of it for you. So once I pulled the trigger with that 23 window bus, that's when I was like, all right, you know what? These cars are a lot of fun to drive, and I think I'm going to try to. I want to see what a 1961, 1962 Porsche feels like. If I like the way the engine sounds on the bus this much, maybe I'll like the Volkswagen or the Porsche. And of course, Volkswagen, Porsche, Audi, lots of Audi much later on, but early on Volkswagen and Porsche, very, very similar. And I know some people would say, you're buying a glorified Volkswagen bus. What are you doing that for? If you like the sound of a Volkswagen, just buy a Volkswagen for a lot less money. But I like to kind of ride those supply and demand waves, and this is a car that has a very limited supply, and so that to me makes it worth something that has a place in my collection for the time being. And I think that there will always be quite a bit of value for these vehicles because they're just this 1961 Volkswagen Bus. You're telling me that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, there won't still be value for it. It's a piece of American history. The Speedster isn't necessarily a piece of American history, with the exception, of course, of James Dean owning one and driving one. But among the Porsche enthusiasts, these are just really sought after. And again, the ones that are in restored shape, the ones that have been really well restored, well, those are actually a little bit more common right now, because a lot of the ones that were like this did get restored at one point or another, or maybe they got restored in the 80s or the 90s, and that restoration isn't really super, super valuable. And so it's like, let's just sandblast it down, repaint it, restore the whole thing, and you know, so that's where a lot of those really restored cars have come from, and the ones like you know, these kind of barn finds that are quite authentic, original engine matching, unrestored. Now again, was this repainted at one point? I don't know. Was it an original color of red? I mean, we'd have to look at the Kardex to be sure. But and even if it's the original color, that doesn't change the fact that it still could have been repainted in its original color. So yeah, ROT. So, but in any case, and this one was produced. This was 80943. So this was produced about 100 cars before this one here off the line. So this is the interesting thing. This is titled as a 56. It's titled as a 56, but you can see it was produced there in 55. And I think that's where the misconception comes that, oh, it's a 56, therefore it's a T1. No. Look at that. That's a Pre A. So thank you guys for tuning in on this episode of Tire Kickers. I'll be more excited when I can actually show you the car in person and take you for a drive in it, but it's going to be a little while. It's in the process of getting kind of cleaned up and ready to go. So anyways, I just thought I'd let you guys know where we're at here. 1955 Pre A Speedster, new to the collection at Tire Kickers, and I'll see you guys for the next episode. Make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. What's up, everyone? All right, well, if you made it to the end of this video, you must also be a tire kicker just like me. So hit that subscribe button and come over to tirekickers.com to check out some articles that I've written about some of my favorite cars, including that 23 window 1961 VW bus.